I had an aborted attempt to join the Royal Air Force. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. The problem was I was asthmatic, mildly asthmatic. My name is James Mathewson. I'm the founder and CEO of SUPERLUXE and Partners Limited. So we wanted to be able to build a platform that would allow our artists to sell internationally, give them a sales engine.
What advice would you give someone who wants to stand out in a crowded digital world?
My advice to anybody is focus on, what is that core USP? What differentiates you from the crowd? We tried to build a USP around art in a crowded market where there isn't a lot of differentiations.
If someone wants to get into Web3 or digital art, where should they start?
Yes, where should they start? Well,
Right, James, nice to finally meet you. You okay?
I'm very well, thank you, Harvey.
My first question is, for anyone that has clicked on this video, could you explain who you are and what your business is?
Yes, indeed. So my name is James Mathewson. I'm the founder and CEO of SUPERLUXE and Partners Limited. So we are a fine art representation business. So we represent currently 25 artists from all over the world.
Okay.
We represent them globally and exclusively for a curated collection of art.
Okay.
And we have about 30 art collections in our portfolio. And that equates to about $72 million worth of retail value of art that we have for sale. We're an unusual business in the art world because we have a big digital aspect to us. So whilst we're in a physical gallery and we're very much about real world physical art, we also have an online platform that sells internationally, that is multilingual, multi-currency, accepts not only pounds, euros and dollars, but also Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana. And we also, through our sister company, a wholly owned subsidiary based in the BVI, we have our own cryptocurrency called ArtX, which is our art token minted on the Solana blockchain. So we're a hybrid between kind of physical real world art and Web3 kind of blockchain and crypto.
Okay. And how long have you been doing this for?
So we were established in Jersey, Channel Islands in 2020. So we're into our 6th year. We focused in on fine art probably 3 years ago, and we are now wholly and exclusively in the fine art market. Yeah. And
then my second question. When I was researching you, it came up that you started work at 19 doing sales. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, a long time ago.
And why did you go into sales at that age, and what did you take from that in sales?
Okay, so I started my working career at 16. I didn't go on to college. I didn't go on to university. And I sometimes look back and regret those decisions. But I started work at 16 in the buying department of an amazing company called B&W Loudspeakers. Bowers and Wilkins. They're a famous audio manufacturing business in my hometown where I grew up. And I started in the buying department as a progress chaser. Okay. So my job was to chase up orders from suppliers and see where they were and when they were coming, making sure that they were on time and the quantities of components were coming, at the right, based on the right order information. Yeah. And that progressed then to becoming a buyer. And one of the things that I became very wooed by as a buyer was that I had all these sharp-suited, expense account wielding, company car driving sales guys coming in to see me, to sell to me. And I, at the age of 19, thought that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be out on the road, independent, covering my territory, going and seeing my customers, and being a field sales guy. Yeah. Okay. So I applied to a recruitment consultancy in Lewes, East Sussex, and I asked them if they could help me find a job in sales. Yeah. And they said, well, look, James, you've not got any real practical experience or background in sales, so come and work for us. We'll teach you how to sell. Yeah. And they were hard-nosed salespeople. Right. They were target-driven, hard salespeople. Yeah. So I spent a year working for them and learned sales. And then I joined a company called STC Electronics in Harlow in Essex. And I took on my first role as a field sales representative, covering Sussex and Surrey, which was where I lived. And I had my new company car, a bootload of catalogues, and a customer list. And my job was to drive around those two counties, visit my customers, and take orders. And then phone those orders through to the girls in the sales team up at Harlow, and they would process the orders. And I loved it. It was great. I was out on the road. I had my expense account. I had my daily lunch allowance. I had my brand new company car. And at the age of 20, all my friends didn't have any of that. They were all still scrimping and scraping their way through college. But there I was driving around, free and independent. And that really sort of started my career in sales. And there isn't really, if you own a business, there really isn't an aspect to the business where you're not selling. You're always selling. So it was the precursor to me going on to become, sort of an entrepreneur and a business owner.
How long did you do that in sales then, from 19 to?
Probably about 5 years. And then I ended up working for one of my clients. He was a charismatic American from New York, and he was ex-Kodak, and he had started up a tech business with, strangely enough, the investment from a chap called Jack Walker, who was actually Jersey-based. And he'd set up this tech business, and he'd offered me a job. And he said, "Do you want to come and be marketing manager for this new business we've created?" And I said, "Well, I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like fun." And it meant a pay rise and another nice new car. And I took on that job, And again, it was another 5 or 6 years of very happy working time for me.
That's good. And then my other question, when you were 18, what did you think your future would look like? Was entrepreneurship always the path?
I had an aborted attempt to join the Royal Air Force. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I had these aspirations as a young man of going into the RAF and flying. At that time, I think it was the Tornado. The problem was I was asthmatic, mildly asthmatic. So the RAF said, "Look, you can't be a pilot. In fact, you're not going to be in an aircraft at all. You can be ground crew, and you can work on the aircraft, and you can travel the world, but you can't fly." And me being a cocky teenager at the time said, no, thank you. That's not good enough. If I can't be a pilot, I don't want to be in the RAF. And so when I joined ERC, and when I joined, which was the recruitment company, and when I joined STC, which was the sales job, I was really kind of making it up as I went along. I was doing things that I thought sounded interesting, as opposed to following a classical career path of training to be a lawyer, and then having a legal training contract, and then joining as a solicitor, and then going on to become a partner, and following a sort of formulaic career path. I sort of have always made it up as I went along, rightly or wrongly. But I followed my gut.
And then moving on to your business.
Yes.
How do you explain SUPERLUXE to someone who's never heard of Web3 or fine art markets?
So it's an interesting one because they're two very different things. Firstly, I think most people understand what art is, and most people buy art because they either love it and enjoy it and they like to see it on their wall of their home, or they buy it as an investment with the intention that it will increase in value and give them a good return at some point in the future. So I think the art bit, most people know and understand relatively easily. But we are, as I said in my introduction, we are a representation business of artists, and we help bring those artists' work to market. And what we discovered over the last few years is that artists are amazing at art, but they're not particularly good at business. And what we try to do is do the business bit for them. So they do the art, we do the marketing and sales and events and PR and all those sorts of things, and look after the clients and the accounting. leaving them free to work on what they enjoy most, which is art.
Yeah.
So that's the art bit of the business. The Web3 bit is, I always describe as the next evolution of the internet. So I lived through Web 1, which was the kind of the beginning of the internet, when people started using, browsers, and they started using Google, and they started using email, for communication. And then, of course, we moved into Web 2, which was the evolution then of e-commerce and social media and mobile apps. And then Web 3 is this next wave of the internet evolving on the blockchain, this sort of almost decentralized version of the internet, where you're not relying on Amazon, or you're not relying on Google, or you're not relying on Meta for your services and infrastructure. There's a whole decentralized infrastructure out there. But also the Web3 piece around payments and the movement of money is changing. So traditionally it's being pay with debit card or credit card. Now it's pay with crypto, as well as credit and debit card or bank transfer. And so there's a big shift happening in not just how the internet works from an infrastructure perspective, but how things like payments and the movement of money works, where it becomes more peer-to-peer than through a set of intermediaries. If I buy something online today using a credit card, I'm using Visa. Visa then have to pay the merchant. The merchant then has a bank. The bank then pays out. Whereas with crypto, you can come into our gallery today and you can say, "Can I pay with Bitcoin?" And it's direct between you and I. It's not through a series of intermediaries. Okay. And that shift is I think going to be quite profound over the next decade, as more and more people start to use things like stable coins and other cryptocurrencies to be able to just buy their normal day-to-day items, anything from a coffee in a coffee shop to a piece of art in a gallery. Yeah.
Okay. And do you get many customers that come in and pay Bitcoin at the moment? Or?
Not yet. I mean, there is, I'm told, a lot of crypto held in Jersey.
Oh, right, okay.
But I haven't had anybody come in and say, we'd like to play with Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana yet. But we have the ability. Yeah. We can facilitate that. And that should and will start to feel as normal as tapping with Apple Pay or Google Pay.
Yeah, okay. And then my second question, what is the problem that you were trying to solve with SUPERLUXE?
Okay, so there's a few different problems really. The problem for the artist is revenue, income. We wanted to be able to build a platform that would allow our artists to sell internationally and to give them a regular income stream. And flatten out some of the peaks and troughs that they experience in sales and revenue. So that was the problem we're trying to solve for artists. Is we give them a sales engine. The problem we're trying to solve for clients, who might just be art lovers or they might be art investors and collectors, is the issue of provenance. We wanted to ensure that when somebody comes into SUPERLUXE and buys a piece of art, that they know they're buying the original from that artist, or they're buying an edition from that collection that is the absolute genuine article. Yeah. And we do that, we solve that problem by using what's called blockchain provenance certification. Okay. So every single piece of art you see in our gallery is certified on the public blockchain. Okay. There is a ledger entry. We generate what's called a blockchain provenance certificate. And that certificate goes with the art alongside the artist's certificate of authenticity. Right. Together with a third thing, which is called a tamper-proof DNA tag. Okay. So the tamper-proof DNA tag sits on the artwork or on the frame of the artwork, and once it's there, it can't be removed. And if it is removed, it kind of self-destructs, so you know it's been tampered with. Okay. And the reason we do this is because we came across a situation, and actually it was with the Kate Moss collection by Tony Briggs, whereby we found somebody selling the artworks unofficially on eBay, and they were claiming that they were official limited edition prints signed by the artist, And of course they weren't, and they were selling them at quite a hefty price, and they claimed they were coming with a signed and certified artist certificate of authenticity. And that immediately shone a light on the vulnerability in the art market of people being able to copy and sell art and claim it to be from the collection when it's actually not. And then there's a final piece which we solve through digital and through technology, which is portability. So a piece of art generally stays in a fixed location. It's on your wall at home.
Yeah.
But quite a lot of my clients have multiple homes.
Right.
And they quite like the idea of having their art in multiple places. Through something like an NFT, you can have that on your phone in your wallet, and when you get to your yacht or you get to your home in Monaco, you can connect your wallet to a TV screen and show your art wherever you are.
Yeah.
As well as the fact that you can be at a dinner party or in a restaurant with friends, and you can show people that you own this one of one piece of art by Stoney, or behind me by the Connor brothers.
Yeah.
So what technology has allowed us to do is facilitate that portability. And that's a big upside for the clients and collectors. For the artists, with an NFT, you have something called a smart contract. And within the smart contract is written that every time that piece of art sells, 10% of the sale value goes back to the artist's crypto wallet.
Okay.
So normally what would happen with a physical piece of art is it sells, the buyer holds it for 5 years and sells it to somebody else. The artist would never know that that second sale has happened, or that third sale has happened, or that fourth sale has happened.
Yeah.
But with digital, with technology, every time that NFT changes hands, 10% of that sale value, whether it's gone up or down in value, goes back to the artist.
Right.
And that's a unique opportunity for artists that they've never had before.
Yeah. Okay. And then before starting SUPERLUXE, you ran the pizza box.
We still do.
You still do. Okay.
Yes, we do.
Totally different business to this.
Correct.
Why start the pizza box?
We actually bought the pizza box off another couple.
Okay.
It's a business my wife and I own together. We were customers of Pizza Box when we first moved to Jersey.
Yeah.
We loved it. We loved making pizza at home with the kids, and the idea is that you make it when you want it, how you want it, as opposed to, how someone else describes that you should have pizza.
Yeah.
And for a while, we were very much enjoying being customers of Pizza Box. Then it sort of disappeared. And then on their Facebook page, they announced that they wanted to sell the business. So we very quickly tracked down the couple that owned it, knocked on their door the next day and said, we'd like to buy your business. And that was about 5 years ago.
Right.
And since then, we've grown the business. It's a great side business, if you like. We tend to do it mostly at weekends.
Yeah.
We have two real core offers within Pizza Box. Offer one is pizza kits that we deliver, where you make pizza at home with your friends or your family or your children. And then the other offer is the events business, which is where we pop up our gazebo at somebody's home or at a public event like the motor show, and we cook pizza for people attending those events. And it's been very well received. We pride ourselves on consistency of the quality of the product, the consistency of our service. We always turn up for events. We never let our event organisers down. And it's just been a really great business.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I meet a lot of people when I'm doing Pizza Box events that go, "Oh, hi James, I'll pop in the gallery next week."
Yeah.
And there is that sort of almost tension between working in a business where it's quite high value and serving pizza at events where it's quite low value.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. It's almost a bit of kind of therapy.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I've seen you a couple of times at Roselle campsite as well.
Yeah, we're at Roselle during generally the sort of July-August period.
Right. Okay.
And we do about 46 events per annum, roughly,
Right, okay.
give or take.
Yeah. And then my other question, food service versus luxury art.
Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges in both fields that you're facing?
Okay, food service. First of all, I think that's quite straightforward. Biggest challenge we've always had has been around wastage and being able to predict demand. So, for example, this weekend we have two events on. We have an event on today and a different event on tomorrow. The weather isn't great this weekend.
Yeah.
That can make a huge difference to how many people attend those events and whether there's going to be a lot of demand for pizza or a little demand.
Yeah.
And therefore, what Liz and I, my wife and I, have had to learn over these 5 years is how to balance stock versus demand, without resulting in too much wastage, because the more wastage you have, the less profit you're going to make from that event. So we used to look at a sellout show. If we sold out by 3 or 4 o'clock, we'd think we'd failed, because we think, there's still 2 more hours to go. We could have done another 20, 30 pizzas. But equally, if you overstock and you finish the day and you've got 20 or 30 doughs left, you're probably going to have to throw them.
Yeah. Okay.
And what we often then did was we used to donate them to local, food banks or charities. But we've kind of learned now to sort of be comfortable with, let's do well and be happy with selling out by 3 or 4 o'clock, rather than trying to win every time and go right till 6 to the bitter end and hopefully get it just about right. So that's on the food service side of things. And I suppose the other big challenge is staff. Always a logistical challenge is having, making sure you've got the right number of people on for an event. If you're too light-handed with staff, it can put a lot of pressure on. If you've got too many staff, again, you're sitting there thinking, I'm paying people to be here when we haven't got many customers. So it's balance in that respect, versus in a kind of a higher end kind of luxury product sector like the art market, is you're less about volume and much more about value. There is art in the gallery around us that sells at £30,000-40,000 per piece. You're not going to get a steady queue of people coming in all day buying at that level. You might not see a customer for a month, and then you might have someone who comes in and buys at that kind of price point. So what, again, we've tried to do with SUPERLUXE is we've tried to create enough breadth and depth in the offer that we've got art from £80 and £100 right up to £40,000. We're not in the blue chip space. We're not selling Banksy's and Damien Hirst's or Mr. Brainwash for millions of pounds. We're selling at the sort of £1,200 to £30,000-40,000 level. So I feel like we're accessible to most people's budgets, but you're not going to get volumes of customers. And that's the other challenge. One good sale can be great in a month, or you can have multiple lower level sales, but you're never going to get a steady queue.
And then moving on to advice for others.
Yes.
What advice would you give someone who wants to stand out in a crowded digital world?
Okay, I think, we're in the kind of creator economy. Content is king. Content's always been king, but so has utility, functionality, and what goes behind the content. So I think my advice to anybody is focus on, what is that core USP? What is the differentiates you from the crowd? In the case of SUPERLUXE, we felt it was the blockchain provenance certification, the portability of the NFT aspect, as opposed to selling NFTs on the basis of price. We're selling them on the basis of utility, bringing out our own currency to give our holders incentives and benefits. We tried to build a USP around art in a crowded market where there isn't a lot of differentiation. That's how we attacked it. So I think my advice to anybody starting out is, if it's an established market you're moving into, how can you tweak the model to be different? And that's where you'll get your standout, because all of your content, all of your messaging, all of your creative, all of your narrative will focus in on that differentiation, that standout point.
And my other question is, if someone wants to get into Web3 or digital art, where should they start?
Yes, where should they start? Well, like a lot of things on the internet, there's an awful lot of content out there about the blockchain, about crypto.
Yeah.
Crypto has had a bit of a difficult decade because it has been traditionally associated with dark web, money laundering, proceeds of crime, scams, things like that. But as now institutional capital is flowing into crypto through things like ETFs, we're obviously now seeing the sort of the crypto markets maturing. So I would say if you're looking to immerse yourself in the crypto world, is probably find 2 or 3 credible news platforms or sources of information and stick to those. And also, I think an important part of being in crypto is you've kind of got to be in it. You've got to dip a toe in the water and go on that journey.
Yeah.
And what we found is people have been intrigued by what we're doing, that they've put a little bit of a toe into the water, and we've then taken them on that journey of learning about it.
Right, okay, yeah.
So later this month, in the Atelier, I'll be running a crypto blockchain tokenization workshop. And it's just 90 minutes of education around what's a wallet, what is cryptography, what is the difference between a hot wallet and a cold wallet, what's the difference between a layer 1 and a layer 2 blockchain. And I'll put it into very plain English and very almost simplified terms, but it's to help people kind of understand the landscape and then think about how they might want to engage with it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that would be my advice is look for a couple of quite credible sources of information or people and follow those and immerse yourself in those first.
Yeah, okay. And then my other question, what do you think separates people who succeed in their ventures from those who stop halfway?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think success means different things to different people. Success to a lot of people means wealth.
Yeah.
It means, I'm successful because I've got money and I've got a nice house and a nice car and a big bank balance. But also success can come in other ways. Success can be in, what you do for your community, or how, we sell art and we give to charities.
Yeah.
And we support and help. So I think people who are successful are comfortable with what they're contributing. People who struggle with achieving success tend to fail because they don't have enough focus or conviction or tenacity to see the job through.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just a case of it's a bad idea and it's never going to work.
Yeah.
And if it's a bad idea and it's never going to work, then you're better to stop and move on rather than just keep going at it. And actually, failure is not a bad thing. I've had multiple failures in my career, as well as a few successes along the way. And I think, we learn from failure and we can use those learnings to do things differently next time. And I think, it's a good thing to fail. Everyone focuses on success because that's what we all want. But actually, there's loads of great stories out there of where people have failed and then gone on to do things better next time.
Yeah.
And it's, that's, I think, just part and parcel of the journey.
And then what do you think is more important, passion or discipline, based on your journey as an entrepreneur?
I'm getting older now, so I'd probably say discipline. Okay. If you'd have asked me a decade ago, I'd have probably said passion.
Yeah, okay.
But I think you need a bit of both. I wake up in the morning excited about the day ahead. And that, for me, is the passion bit. I love what I do, and I love what we're creating at SUPERLUXE. And I look forward to the day when it's bigger and it's out there, more internationally. But at the same time, the discipline of every day, you've got to show up. It's just consistency.
Yeah.
And every day, you've got to put a smile on your face and get out and attack the world and deliver. And that discipline of being consistent can be difficult sometimes if things aren't going well.
Yeah.
Or it can be difficult if, the market's against you or whatever. but you've still got that discipline of, I can't stay in bed today. I've got a team. I've got a gallery to open. I've got to be there to meet my customers with a smile on my face. And that's the bit that I think differentiates people who can succeed from people who give up. It's because it's easy sometimes just to go, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
When actually you should be doing it today.
Yeah. Okay. And another question: what was the idea around the name SUPERLUXE? What came?
What was the name? When I moved to Jersey, I was looking for a name that I felt encapsulated what we stood for, and at the time we were much more broadly luxury goods than we were fine art. We only focused in on fine art 3 years ago, so we're relatively new still in the fine art space. But I had come out of a 15-year career working for a global luxury goods group called Richemont, and I think it was probably the luxury was obviously the luxe, and I used to work with a lot of Swiss French people who used to say super a lot.
Okay.
And I think it just, in the back of my head, this SUPERLUXE just sort of was there. And therefore, when I moved to Jersey and we wanted to create this new entity, it just felt sort of natural to call it SUPERLUXE.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good. And then, so we've got a tradition on the podcast where viewers submit their questions via Slido. Got one Slido question for you.
Great.
If you had to start your brand from zero today in 2025, what would you do differently?
What would I do differently about the brand? It's a really good question, because I actually love the brand we've created, and maybe I do because I created it. It has evolved. We were black and gold originally 6 years ago. Now we're sort of much more bright and colourful, and I sort of feel like it's the sun rising. And I think, it's okay. If I were to answer the question, I'd probably answer it in a slightly roundabout way, which is to say that brands should evolve because the market evolves, customers evolve, times change. And I think one of the things that we've done, and we will continue to do successfully, I hope, is evolve the model, evolve the business to be modern. 3 years ago, we started out as a fine art business. We could have just stuck to quite traditional values, but it just felt natural to me to bring the digital experience I've had of 3 decades into the mix. And then that led us to the blockchain, and the blockchain led us to crypto, and now we're developing mini apps for Telegram, and we're evolving, but we're still core to the proposition of art. But we're wrapping around that a lot of new things that we think make us modern and make us current. And I think that's the bit that if I were to tell anybody, if you were starting a brand today, firstly, you've got the upside of you're starting from scratch. You don't have a legacy to have to deal with. But to always think about how you continually evolve that brand and how you continually develop it so that it stays current with the market trends, because you've got to go where your customers are. I wrote the digital strategy for British Airways back in my career, and at the time Willie Walsh was the CEO, and he said, we want to be everywhere our customers are all of the time. And when he said that to me, I sort of almost thought, that's impossible. Unless you've got deep pockets, how can you be where your customers are all the time? Yeah. But I now know what he meant, which is that we have to constantly keep evolving because the customer's right. If the customer's not buying from you, they're buying from someone else. And the reason they're buying from someone else is because that's a better product or service. Yeah. So you've got to keep iterating and evolving so that you're current to your customers and relevant to your customers. Yeah.
And that's all my questions for you.
Amazing.
I want to say thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
For coming on, and thank you for hosting it here as well.
Absolute pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And I think for anyone that is watching today, they can tell that you love what you do.
Love what I do. Yeah. Come down to the Atelier SUPERLUXE. We're in Liberty Wharf. Pay us a visit, and I'll be very happy to show you around.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on.
Pleasure. Cheers, Harvey.
Cheers.